I'll be discussing food safety and labeling. I decided on this topic just because it's a little smaller scale. Maybe not as far as as the mention, global warming or something like that. But it is a necessary thing that needs to be dealt with and could require government intervention. So, the first thing I want to talk about is that the issue, how it could be prevented, and then how the government would intervene. So obviously, we all see the labeling on our food, stuff like that, and as well as we know that it's inspected. As a matter of fact, like some food that's more heavily inspected can be even charged more expensive, and that's for a reason. It's gonna be a better food. It's seen as healthier. So it's also there's many laws when it comes to food. That's why things like the FDA is established, and they inspect food. So yeah, distribution of food as well. Even if you want to sell food legally, you need a permit and things like that. It's for a reason, because food is very important, and the government can be picky about a lot of things that are consumed. So not just food, other consumables such as drugs, whether it be prescription, all this stuff like that. It's gonna be a government is gonna be included in that because of the safety and what's in it, as well as the labeling as well for the people. So, how it is an issue, like I said, food, believe it or not. And today there's a lot of regulation, so we kind of see this as we see, the good standards that we see today as the norm, which is very, very good. Because one topic that I want to bring up as how it would be law is actually there are laws in food. Because, Theodore Roosevelt, as I found Robert Williams playing him right there, he is the one under his presidency that the FDA was established. So that was established in June of 1906, and a big part of that was because of a little thing in Chicago that happened. Chicago was a very, very, very big prominent leader in the distribution of meat, for the entire United States. And let's just say that the safety and the health standards and a lot of those shops such as where they package it and cut up and just processed meat, very, very, very unhealthy and unclean, far more than what you'd expect. As okay, maybe they have a little something, this and that. Nope. There are accounts of men losing fingers and it just going into the meat grinder, and rats all over the floor with the meat, and still just being packaged in. There used to be reports of when people would buy their food, there would be poor remains of rats in it, and it became an issue as well when even children began to get sick because the meat was just very unhealthy, very didn't meet any standards that were required, as well as there was no inspection. So that's a big part. The FDA is established, so that's why food inspection as well as labeling, people need to know what's in their food, are very important today, and the government does intervene. Excuse me. So, bicameral Congress and the system, how it impacts passage of said law, laws that pending meat, and not just meat, but food inspection and labeling. State Standing Committee of Health, Education, and Labor. So that's one of the many offices that are broken into smaller kind of smaller issues. How there's the Committee of Agriculture, Community of Defense. Well, one of them that this would fall in would be the Committee of Health, Education, Labor, and Pension. Health, of course, because the consumption of food, especially throughout the United States, it's going to be really, really important that we keep our people healthy. So that's why the Committee of Health is there to take charge. So bicameral Congress, the committee chairs, finding out about all this stuff is actually very interesting, because if any laws want to be passed down, committee chairs, which would be the heads of these committees, have a lot of power when it comes to this. So they get when certain bills and suggested topics that could be are presented that can eventually become laws, they have the ability to become laws. They have to go through committees, and committee chairs have the power to decide what chosen issues go through. So let's say someone's like, oh, okay, I want more heavier, stringent laws on food because of this reason. A lot of people, there's a rise in allergies and stuff like that, and I want more stricter laws on food and labeling than we already have in place. Committee chairs of let's say the Committee of Health, Education, and Labor, Pension, they have the power to gatekeep. As in the Crash Course video, they get the power to choose what issues get passed on, and if they don't like one, it's called like when they gatekeep authority. So it's very, very crazy how, through bicameral Congress, the system that's set in place can affect the very passage of law, even if the law has a chance at all. So that's how it would affect any like food-related laws or inspection. Excuse me. And congressional leadership as well and committees, they impact the process a lot. So another thing I saw in the Crash Course video, which was very surprising to me, is that proposed bills, like I said, they can die in committee. As committee chairs, they decide what gets passed on. So like if they just, for whatever reason, they just don't want the law, they just don't see it as a priority and stuff like that, or if they just don't want it to get passed, they get to decide what. So it could just literally die in committee. Like it won't even get past anything like into consideration. Also, congressional leadership, peer pressure is a factor as well, because House Majority Leader, this happens a lot with voting. Elected officials, they kind of, like in the video it said, they whip their parties into line, because it makes it feel like because they elected a certain leader, they have to vote for them as well in decisions of laws and being passed. So basically, they kind of makes it seem like, oh, I voted for this guy, so I should vote for the stuff that he sees fit, instead of them voting for, okay, maybe if what he's saying I oppose to it. Nope, they really don't think that a lot. They kind of like make the members vote into their own favor because they belong to their party. So it's called like whipping them into line in the video, and I just thought that was crazy how like things like that is like basically peer pressure, being like, oh, I need to stick with my party. So the leadership can really affect it, as well as the committees that are in place. And it's weird that I cough every time I change the slide. But what influences that can play a role in this process, like I was saying, the bicameral issues, how they see, oh, okay, I don't want this to get passed or not. If it can die in before it kind of gets any further. And as well as Senate and House Representatives. So we have our Senate representatives and our House representatives, and they each are supposed to represent us. But they can also have opposing ideals and how they see things. So like if one of them gets to get like I said, oh, okay, maybe I want stricter laws on meat packaging, and I want food to be inspected more, and I want better labeling that's set into place. Like like an example would be how Tic Tacs. How Tic Tacs are supposed to be like, oh, like no sugar. They're actually like 90% sugar, but it's like so little that the laws that are set into place don't require it to say it has that much sugar, even though it's like mostly sugar in the thing. So like let's say we want a law that like kind of fixes this. If Senate and House Representatives have different views, then that can really affect if a law like that gets passed, or any changes. And also, yeah, so another point that I wanted to make is that as in pertaining to the House of Representatives, they everyone votes for people that to support their goals, but when we vote members in the Senate, for example, the Senate, those voted elective officials have powers as well, that like right here it says that they have the power to appoint a federal judge. So like that, to me, that was kind of crazy as well. Okay, if we vote for this guy, all right, cool, I support him. But that guy, we're giving them power to appoint certain judges. So like if any cases or rulings are in need of being made, federal judges are set into place that they are the ones that are picking, so they can kind of manipulate it that way. Oh, okay, I want this judge because I know he shares similar ideals as me that I want, and yeah, it'll just basically make it harder for any laws or any changes to be made regarding food or labeling or inspection. So yeah. Oh, and also checks and balances. They also have a lot of power to kind of control one another. So like, yeah, if like one branch wants something to be done and the other two really are in favor for it, you really slow it down as well. And how power can be separated into between Congress and the president. Like I was just saying, separation of powers, the checks and balances. The legislative branch was basically the president. Scratch that. but the legislative branch has most of the power, which is good because it has power over the executive branch, such as they can impeach the president, and Congress can also override any vetoes that the president makes with a 2/3 vote. So, like, let's say the president is a real knucklehead and it's like, oh, okay, I don't want laws, I don't want more stricter labeling on food, I don't want meat to have a higher standard to pass inspections, like, I like it the way it is. But Congress sees it as, oh no, a lot of people are, the general public is being affected because we don't have stricter requirements on food. Congress can actually override any vetoes that the president makes, like say an against law, like, oh, I don't like it. All they need is a 2/3 vote. So that's very important as well. So yeah, and if the president's really sober, they can impeach him. So how presidential powers are related, and as well as congressional delegation. So kind of like I was saying before, when we elect people, they have certain powers within their role. The president is, kind of the same. They have power to appoint judges as well, but instead of like before how it was just federal, they have supreme and federal. So it's just they can appoint judges in even higher positions that can affect how laws are being made, especially anything that gets brought up to the Supreme Court. The president has the power to, appoint judges there. So again, oh, I like this judge because I know he's going to vote against any changes, any stricter laws in food and labeling. Oh, let me appoint him so that, presidential power can really play a role in what laws get passed, including, when it comes to food and labeling and inspection overall. So that's why it applies to smaller matters, because congressional delegation. The video explained it as like, oh, okay, maybe there's the president has a lot to do on his plate as well. So smaller issues, like every issue is not going to get tackled by the president. There's just be too many things. So they're broken up through congressional delegation. So smaller matters such as food inspection of meat, which the FDA does and not the president, great example, is how congressional delegation actually would apply here. So the president's not going to be like, oh yeah, this means good. Like, that's why they got the FDA set in place, because it takes care of that issue. And because it is an important one, not that it's so unimportant the president can't do it, but it's just like one thing off their plate that someone else can do. So that's why the FDA is set in place, and good thing for congressional delegation. So yeah, my closing slide would just be, food inspection. We kind of, take it for granted today, but I remember learning in high school how crazy it was, how nasty the conditions were for food to be able to be sold and processed and stuff like that. Like basically no sanitation. But now we got all that here. It's like, oh, literally we see, oh, okay, the milk's gonna expire soon, I'm not gonna buy it. Like stuff like that was not around for the longest. So it's just really important to remember that our food and the things we consume and the laws set in place for them, although it's a smaller issue, they are very important because no one wants to eat bad food, especially me. So yeah, so the mass production of goods as well, prescriptions too, they all need labeling. They're regulated by government, because especially when it comes to like things like prescription drugs and things like that, the labeling needs to be very important because we need to know what we're putting into our bodies. We don't want stuff that's meant to help to damage us any further. So, just inspection and labeling and making sure things up to codes that are set up by laws and things like that. It's just very important to make sure that they're there in place. But yeah. So thank you for listening to my slide. I hope I educated you about smaller issues such as the food that we consume. So thank you.